AI actually does change the game. It is not just hype. What scares me is where are the skills to understand and re-engineer work, and whose job is it?
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
We are back after lunch. Paul, what'd you have for lunch?
Oh, nobody has lunch at these conferences. You just go from podcast to an analyst interview to a customer meeting.
It's like a grazing, graze a little bit.
Okay, truth.
Truth.
They have watermelon Sour Patch Kids at our booth, but for staff only. They're delicious.
We'll have a sidebar conversation about watermelon saturation. But we are back. We just took the lunch break. It's the afternoon session here at Unleash. Day one with my man, Paul Rubenstein, from a company that I've grown to know about through my friend Dina. Visier, why don't you tell us first what Visier does and what do you do there specifically?
Well, to know us is to love us. Right?
I don't love you yet.
Oh,
we're still in the courting phase over here.
It's interesting. Like to know me is to know that I have this like multi-year, 20-year passion for making the HR function amazing, right? For unleashing its potential, for making sure that, every head of HR is really reaching business impact. And as part of that, I think I've been obsessed for years with how do you connect everything we do and know about talent with business outcomes, right? And so very much, it was a 20 plus year career in consulting to HR.
You're a practitioner?
And then I spent time as head of HR at Visier. I've been chief customer officer at Visier. Now I'm chief evangelist at Visier, out there in the markets, once again, helping everybody navigate what it means to make better decisions in the age of AI.
So let's talk about decisions.
Yeah.
What was that transition process like, going from managing the HR discipline to now evangelist? And I love this title.
Well,
who's like for you personally from a career perspective?
Well, I look at it this way. I think from a career transition, the big one is to go from consulting into a tech firm, right? Always owning a number, waking up every day, no matter how high you go up, saying, what did I bill yesterday, right? How am I always hunting? To going into a software firm where, you're still focused on revenue, but your day-to-day feedback mechanism on your direct effort to how it shows up in a measurement at work. Like for most people, it's a little bit longer of a chain, right? I think great organizations can connect that chain, my effort to the outcome. That's what gives employees purpose, helps them feel impact. Got even trickier actually going into HR.
How so?
And I will tell you, I was a better consultant after I had led a P&L. A better consultant.
Because you have that responsibility to drive.
Once you're in the seat of HR, you realize, it's an amazing platform. You make of it what you will. You have to divide you have two hands in HR. With the left hand, you're driving business outcomes, even if you're not completely accountable for them. And with the right hand, you're thinking about the HR function. Is it fit for mission? Is it at the right cost?
Is it working?
Efficient? Is it working well? And yeah.
So let's talk for a little bit. Let's give us a little history lesson here.
Sure.
On the evolution of HR, right? If I go back, I've been in the workforce for 25, 26 years at this point. When I started, HR TA was rolled into HR back then. Now we've properly, in my opinion, separated the two practices. But aside from that, the evolution of HR being just hiring, benefits, payroll,
go back before that. Go back before that.
Because just like offer letters into the stones.
No, but if you really go back, and the way I like to think about the history of HR was industrial relations.
And now this moment in the history of HR, brought to you by Paul and Adam.
There was a time when people were trying to understand, and it's very relevant right now, the interaction of labor at scale and labor in manufacturing and labor on the assembly line, right? Our human factors engineers would go in and say, well, how many how many widgets, how many steps, how many motions does it take to execute an individual? Like
Right, that was the mention.
you go back to Ford, right?
I was about to say.
The early or Sloan and
Right,
early
the assembly
GM,
lines.
right? Assembly lines, and that gave way, right, as labor became organized and as you needed more record keeping about these people.
Tech advance.
Somehow, the science of human engineering gave way to the rise of the personnel department, right? Rightly so, people were obsessed with risk, right? We developed an incredibly, needed framework for labor law, right? Think of all the different acts from ERISA to, everything to do with disability to
FMLA, all these pieces.
you name it, right? It keeps on increasingly complex stuff to manage, right? And yeah, like that. I remember the pivotal moment for me in HR when I entered was watching us go from what I'll call multi-local HR to a grand strategic HR. Ulrich had just come out with the three-legged stool. We were looking for efficiencies, consistency, fairness. We were looking for controls. And what was even more formative in my life, so dorky, the first
There's a place.
PeopleSoft
There's a place to
systems.
do
Yeah,
it.
there's a place to do this.
This is. I mean, if we're going to
Welcome
talk shop,
to HR tech.
if there's any place to talk shop, it is here.
So I remember seeing my first PeopleSoft system, PeopleSoft 6.0, green screen. Okay.
DOS prompt on it.
And I was obsessed with this new thing they had delivered called the time and labor module. And I remember going to a CFO. And saying, here's my dream. An employee badges in. We know the skills about that employee. We also know we know which pick pack lines and assembly lines they can work on. We know which ones have the most demand at that moment. We direct them on that day of entry to the most optimal place.
Right.
We know who worked on what. We're able to very quickly capture productivity and cost to serve, creating a more efficient feedback loop of being able to understand the demand, allocate labor, account for it, and optimize.
So we're putting all these KPIs and metrics on human beings. How, in a positive way, have we evolved to still keep the human in HR?
Well, so now let's move forward. Okay.
Now,
the history of HR.
Are we in the 70s now? Where are we?
No, I think we're in the 80s, right?
In the 80s.
I think we're in the 80s, and I remember
The disco era of HR.
So late 80s, early 90s. That's when we really started doing engagement surveys at scale, right?
Right. The feedback loop started.
Feedback loop. And we also recognized we started to see faster shifts in the economy and therefore faster swings in the dynamic of who held the power, employee or employer.
Good point.
Right? And so as that became, we needed to understand sentiment. We need to understand the connection to brand.
The qual, not just the quant.
And I have to say, a lot of that was also helping the business understand which employees gave the brand experience that people wanted, right? Remember Blanchard and TQM and servant leadership. And there was a whole body of work that was about empowering employees and making sure that they could be the best that they could be, because that's how your brand showed up. Make sense?
It does make sense.
And then we start to globalize. Oh, sorry, violation.
Flag on the play.
We start to globalize. Now we're looking for efficiencies. There's computers come in, that those PeopleSoft systems, and we take the HR function and we're building it for sameness, for
the rise of HR,
right? And this is the modern HR function. Business partners, COEs, talent acquisition at scale, make sure there's no generalists, bring in automation. And we've been on this path at a pretty great clip. We've done it through the cloud, was this second generation. And now here we are at the most amazing and most pivotal moment I've ever seen. AI actually does change the game. It is not just hype.
If you're in recruiting, you already know that sourcing eats up way more of your day than it should. That's why I use Pin. Instead of writing Boolean searches and tweaking filters, you just describe what you're looking for and who you're looking for in plain English. I could type something like software engineer at Series A startup with 0 to 1 product experience, and Pin will surface a relevant shortlist right away. No guessing, no wasted time. It turns hours of sourcing into seconds. So book a demo today and see for yourself. Visit pin.com/demo. Tell them Adam sent you.
Let's dig into this now.
Sure.
You take one look around here, and every company's slapping AI on there. But where and how are you seeing it working? And also, what are the pitfalls?
So let me go with the practical reality that I see a lot of people living in. Remember that time I was talking about when we started to drive economies within HR?
Okay.
That gave rise to, many of you remember, the HR service center. And you would call the service center, hey, I need to speak to somebody about learning. Okay, well, let me transfer you. I only know so much. I'm going to give you to an expert, right? There was a cost efficiency in this model, and it became something to navigate, right? And each of those different departments,
Marketing is actually remember this.
the silos of HR, those silos still exist. Look at the siloed technologies we have here. By the way, Visier was founded to bring all the data in those silos together. I'll come back to that. Now, everybody did exactly what you said. I slapped a rectangular box on my software and said, it's smart. So I go in and I'm like, I think it's ChatGPT. So I ask it anything, but I don't know what it knows and doesn't know. And it doesn't understand its relationship with all of the other tech.
It's missing the contextual element of this.
What's happening right now at an incredibly fast clip? You hear orchestration layer, and I predict in 2026, the HR employee of the year will be the MCP server. And boy, does that sound, if you
That's
aren't
a good prediction.
okay, model context.
What's the betting line on Kashi on this?
Exactly. So think about it. Now that we can open up the agents and they can know what each other knows and they can interact with each other, we can probably do a better job of having an informed, intelligent service delivery model.
Exciting.
Yeah.
As long as you know what you're, let me take this back. As long as you're open to understanding what the data is telling you, isn't telling you, and knowing that it may not always be the final answer.
So,
right?
but that's not a new problem. But that's not
directional.
Okay.
We've had this before with other inputs and outputs.
So I've been living the analytics journey for years, right? It used to be that analytics was something that was only available to the very few or the very wealthiest companies, right? And anytime you wanted to look at the data differently or ask the second, third, fourth question, there was an incredible lag. You had to go to a specialist who knew the tools, was the
data analyst, data scientist,
right? We've just lived the entire journey of, and that's been Visier's mission, help everybody make better decisions, be better informed, see those insights. Now, what's different is it's not just about the big revolution. Yes, now I don't need to know charts and graphs. I can just say, who is the candidate most likely to get hired? Who is most likely to turn over? Help me understand the attrition curve and its relationship to the labor market dynamics based on the data that I have. Great. Complicated questions, easy to ask now for anybody.
Easy access to the data sets.
Right. What's the biggest change now is HR can't just think people to systems. It has to think systems to systems. So all the overdue library books about data quality and data completeness are about to be due because you need this informed environment, this data-rich environment. You need to be, what do they call it, looks maxing? You need to be data maxing, right? In order to make sure that not only are the agents making good decisions, but that the people are making good decisions.
Good decisions.
Like the decision to walk in front of the camera.
Well, that's just self-awareness, and it's okay because you're walking in the pathway. But let's quickly talk a little bit about.
Sorry, that was a lot.
What is scaring you? Is it how fast we're moving? Is it I keep talking today, fifth time talking about the shiny object syndrome, where companies think they need the Ferrari, they buy the Ferrari, they invest in the Ferrari, but no one knows how to drive it.
Yeah, no, that's a great.
Scared to drive it.
That's a great question.
Right?
What is scaring me?
No.
I think people forget that in order to make AI work well, you need to understand work. The art of deconstructing tasks and reassembling them Okay. Do you remember, if you're a student of history,
I bet.
think about Toyota versus the American automotive companies that will not be named. Robots start getting introduced. One team is sabotaging the robots. The other team is dancing with them. It gives rise to a culture where we're mutually optimizing what the machine does and what the human does. It gives rise to Lean, Six Sigma, all of these different optimizations and quality indexes. It changes the incentives. These workers are thinking about, and managers are thinking about, how do I not just do work? How do I improve work? Fast forward, this efficient frontier that we're chasing of a human machine mix, right? You got to decide what part of that curve you want to be in.
What ship do you want to get on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that is different is the last shift, I think you and I remember, is re-engineering and putting in software for the cloud or the first ERPs. And that you had a 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 month date. Now it's days.
Now it's days.
Weeks, right?
It's minutes.
So it's moving very quickly. That's to say, right, what scares me is, where are the skills to understand and re-engineer work, and whose job is it?
Okay, so let's finish up on this one strong here. How is the modern HR leader supposed to upskill, reskill, evolve, and become more valuable, should I say invaluable, within their role in the world of modern HR?
Can I change the question?
No. Yes.
How is anybody? It's no different if you're working in HR or if you're working in finance or if you're working in operations. But specific to HR, sure. I think you have to go back and say, if I was going to have a more humane or human place to work backwards. That means work backwards from that moment. That means I have to have harmony between machines and humans. That means I have to have incentive systems. That means I have to train people differently. That means I have to lead differently, right? That means if you are an HR person and you have built your career on being good at mitigating downside risk or employment law, or, that's not enough. You have to understand enough about the technology, enough about the basics of industrial psychology and motivations of work and how people work. And you have to have empathy for what happens outside of HR.
And the bots don't have it yet.
Outside in.
And that's why I feel that we're not going to be replaced entirely, because
we won't.
It's not going to be empathy. So Paul, we could go on for a while on this one. And I really, truly love the history lesson here, because I think we need to always have framework. We need to have context, because we are moving so fast. So I think we need to slow down, take a beat, breathe, take a look at what's actually happening, what's working, what's not working, and not be moving so fast. So Paul, tell us where folks could find you. Where could they learn more? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more about Visier?
Paul Rubenstein. You can find me on LinkedIn. I work at Visier.
That's where
I love HR. I really do.
And if you're up in the greater Vancouver area,
yeah, come visit.
Look this guy up.
Go Canada.
I'll show you around. Excellent. Thank you.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the Podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.